Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill, and today we are showing our gratitude during the Thanksgiving holiday with this vinyl wrap and glitter swirl tumbler tutorial. While Thanksgiving doesn't always get the love it deserves, I thought it would be great to create a cup that brings the colors of this holiday together and cap it off with a great decal. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are using the 20-ounce straight screw top skinny tumbler from Parrish Tumblers, and I sanded the cup and spray painted the bottom rim orange so that we could have some great coverage. I'm going to be using this plaid vinyl that I got from Vinyl Fun from Everyone, and what I did is I just put the vinyl and kind of held it up to the cup where I wanted it to start, and then marked up where the top rim is, and then I'm just using my paper cutter to cut a straight line. Once I have the vinyl cut, I'm going to be using my janky baby blanket just to kind of work as a cradle for my cup. I do have other cradles. For some reason, this one just seems to work the best. So I'm gonna put the cup there, and then I am going to just kind of fold back about an inch off of the vinyl that we'll be placing and cut the backing off of it. This serves as a basis for me to adhere the vinyl to the cup. And what I did is I flipped the cup over because I want the vinyl to be as close to the rim as possible. And I also lined up the vinyl so that it's stuck to the cup straight. When you're using patterns that have lines or very uniform patterns on them, you really want to make sure that you're trying to get the vinyl as straight as possible. So that's a little hack that I've used by using the tabletop to align my vinyl. Once I have the vinyl adhered, I am just using my felt tip squeegee to just push the backing off the cup. So what I like to do is before I started with the squeegee, I flipped it over and just started the backing coming off, but now, like, I know it's kind of hard to see, I'm just using the squeegee to further push the vinyl onto the cup and remove it from the backing. You really want to start with the middle of the vinyl and then work out to the edges, because this prevents as many bubbles as possible, and it really allows you to adhere the vinyl really well. Once you get to the end, I like to take a piece of painter's tape and probably pull it about 1/8 of an inch back from where the vinyl started and really push down the overlapping layer on top of the painter's tape. What it does is it creates a guide for you to run your X-Acto knife along that you can clearly see, and because you kind of lined it up 1/8 of an inch back, it prevents from any stainless from showing if you do happen to cut your vinyl too short. So this is a little hack that I like to use, and you'll see when I pull it up here, it works really well and creates almost a seamless seam. After I have the seam, I am just taking my X-Acto knife to quickly clean off any vinyl that is hanging over the edge of my cup. I'm not doing this super scientifically or with any methodology. I'm just cutting off any vinyl that would prevent me from my next step going well. So I'm just trimming it down. And here you'll see why I did this. So what I do here is I just take my X-Acto knife, again, this is a super sharp blade, and rotate my cup around, holding the X-Acto knife as tight as possible and as perpendicular to the cup as possible as well. And what you'll see is what happens is it cuts the vinyl very nicely and creates a uniform lip around the top that I can use to glitter, make beautiful, whatever you'd like. I then tape off the top because I am going to spray paint that little bit of stainless steel orange. But one thing I forgot to mention is the reason why it's important to remove the vinyl around the lip of the cup is because if you don't, then the epoxy has nothing to attach to when you're doing the next couple layers of your design, and you would literally be able to just slide the vinyl off the cup because there was nothing to attach to, and I don't think your customers are gonna be very happy. I let the spray paint dry, and then I mixed up, I want to say about 40 to 60 milliliters of epoxy. Granted, I was working on a couple of cups, but what I like to do for this design is I apply probably about 15 milliliters over the entire surface of the cup. So this is doing everything over the top of the vinyl, on the bottom, and I let that spin for just a minute. And what you'll see to the side is that I have a medicine cup holder, but after I get the epoxy applied to the cup, I then just pour the remaining epoxy into the medicine cups. So here I poured about 7.5 milliliters and then poured the glitter that I was using into the medicine cups and mixed them up. The reason why I do this is because you'll see that it allows me to really get great coverage with the glitter that you'll see right here, but it also doesn't require so many coats of epoxy afterwards. So by just simply mixing the glitter into the epoxy ahead of time, it lays flat and it just really kind of melds into the epoxy layer that we had laid down previously. The first glitter color I'm using is called Golden Spice from Bougie Glitter Boutique, and it's a chunkier mix. And all I'm doing is I'm pretty much just finger painting the epoxy and glitter onto the surface of the cup in a swirl pattern. So if you've ever done a Milky Way or anything like that, you've seen kind of the way that the swirl goes onto the cup. I'm just doing it a little bit differently by just kind of painting almost splotches onto the cup every which way. So the second color I'm using here is called Cocoa, and it's a really like rich brown that I just thought went wonderfully with this vinyl. And again, I'm just kind of finger painting on just in that swirl pattern, just kind of keeping the swirl in mind, just random places around the cup. And then I'm grabbing my third color, which is Bora Bora. So it's this really pretty teal, and I don't know if you guys can see it on the vinyl, but the vinyl actually had teal in the design. So I wanted to pull this out because I really loved how the orange and the teal popped and just go perfectly together. The last color I'm going to be using is called Honeysuckle, and I really like it because it's a yellow, but it also has kind of some orange undertones. So I thought it really just made the whole aesthetic come together. And one thing I do want to call out is that there is not a right or wrong to this pattern. It's supposed to just kind of have almost a whimsical feel to it and just really pull from the structure of the vinyl. So just be the complete polar opposite of that is where this whole kind of idea came from. So don't worry, you're not going to make it horrible. Trust me and just trust the process. You're going to create something beautiful. The last thing I did with the glitter is I just grabbed a silicone brush, and I'm wiping it off here, but I just ever so slightly went over the glitters. And what this did is it just kind of mixed them just the ittiest bit, but I think it really made the whole look come together. So I highly recommend just adding the step of the silicone brush. And then I wanted to make sure that I torched everything just to get any micro bubbles if there were any. After I had the swirl, I kind of went back and forth about what to do at the top and bottom of the cup. So I took more of that Golden Spice and just ever so slightly sprinkled it at the top and bottom rims and on the bottom. You can see it here. But I just thought it was a nice added detail that I did after I'd done the rest of the live. I let this cup spin for about 4 hours after I did this, and then it was time to move into the next step. Now, if you're happy with the way your glitter swirl works, you do not have to do this step. I just wanted to add some mica powders to the cup to, again, make it a little more whimsical. I'm sorry I keep on using that word, but I just thought it would also pull together the whole look of the cup. So when I add my mica powders, I like to do a thin coat of epoxy on the entire cup just to give a nice coat for the mica powders to meld into. This is just in case I want some more movement, or if I really want to separate the colors or even mix them. Having that epoxy base really makes that possible. I applied about 15 milliliters of epoxy to the cup, and then I had 3 pigment colors that I had used for the overall swirl design here. So I put the mica powders in the medicine cups first, and then poured about 7.5 milliliters of epoxy in each medicine cup, just so that we can do the swirl over the top. Highly recommend put the mica powders in first before the epoxy so that they just don't go everywhere. Once I have the micas mixed, I just take the popsicle stick and just kind of do some, I don't want to say streaks, but just little strands of the mica over the cup. So I started with a really pretty copper. Then I came in with a burnt orange, and then I finished it with a teal. And I would give you the exact name of these mica pigments, but I have had them so long that the packaging or the labels came off the little baggies. So I don't know what they're called, but I would use, if I was remaking this cup, just a copper, a burnt orange, and a teal, and it just really looks nice together. Once I have the micas on the glitter section, I use the pad of my finger and just run it over the top of all three colors. What this does is it just blends the colors together and allows me to really see what their placement's like and if I like it or not. And it also is a pretty good tell on if I need more or if I need to take some off of where I had placed it originally on the cup. Once I have all of those kind of mixed and I add a little bit more, I take my fingernail, granted it is a gloved fingernail, and just lightly separate the colors by dragging my fingernail through the mica pigments. And this just separates them. It gives them almost a little whimsical feel. And I think it's just a nice added detail than if I were just to mix them with my finger on the cup. So I just go around until I'm really happy with the placement, let them turn a little bit on the cup, and then once I have the micas on there, I am going to torch them just really quickly so that I don't have any micro bubbles, but I really didn't. And then that is kind of how I finish off this little swirl that we had going around on top of the vinyl. After I let the mica pigments dry for about 4 hours and let the epoxy cure, I did go in with another coat of epoxy just to make sure that I had a smooth surface, and now it was time to sand. Just like in my previous tutorials, I grabbed my Dremel and my 120 grit flap wheel and just slowly went around the top rim of the cup just to expose that little bit of stainless steel. I do this on all my cups just to make sure that the epoxy has something nice to adhere to. Once I wrap that up, I just grab my 120 grit sanding block and just smooth out any of the rough patches that may have appeared from the glitter or the mica powders. On here, I really just focus at the bottom rim of the cup because since I had that chunky mix, there were some pokey bits sticking up, but just taking my time going over those different places, and then it was time for the decal. I got the design for this decal off Creative Fabrica, and I will link it down in the description below, but I imported the design into Cricut Design Space, did an offset, and then cut the whole decal out at 3.5 inches wide. So it automatically sizes and keeps the aspect ratio. So I just kept it at 3.5 inches wide, and I used the premium textured vinyl from Cricut for the background, and then a teal glitter vinyl that you see here for the foreground or the actual decal itself. After I have those weeded, I wanted to show you how I layer my vinyl. So one of the things that I like to do first before I do anything is tape down the background of the decal and really make sure that it's flat up against the table. I just use painter's tape. And then what I do for the foreground decal is take the backing of the original vinyl that I used and just place it behind half of the foreground decal that you see here. What this allows for is for not the vinyl to stick in random places, get you to put it down the wrong way. And then when you fold it up and lay it down, it just nicely goes down over the background and prevents any bubbles from occurring. And I'm doing the same technique for applying the whole decal to the cup. So this just allows me to adhere it, make sure I like the placement, and then just slide the backing off the decal and make sure that there aren't any bubbles that appear under the vinyl. So there you go. Now, it wouldn't be one of my tutorials if I wasn't sealing some vinyl. So this is just a polyurethane sealer. You can really use any one that you find at a hardware store, but the one I'm using is Quick Coat from CC DIY, and I just like to do this step because it seals the vinyl and prevents it from lifting when you go into your last coats of epoxy. Speaking of last coats of epoxy, after we sealed the vinyl, I let that dry for about 45 minutes, and then I went in for my last coat. This cup only needed one final coat, and I used about 15 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy because the shine can't be beat, and I just absolutely love this stuff. After I applied the epoxy, I let it dry for about 4 hours, and it was done. It was good to go. I absolutely love this method, and I like this shot because you guys can really see the detail of the different glitter colors, but I highly recommend trying this technique, and I cannot wait to see the color combinations and the different things that you're able to create if you are inspired by this tutorial. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you are notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.